Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are in the world. I hope this finds you well. You may have noticed that KASPA has hit new all-time highs. Very exciting. It has reached just over 19 cents, clearing the previous peak set in February. So I'm sure a lot of you listening are quite excited right now, and let's celebrate a little bit. If you've been following along, we've been watching KASPA when it was below the 20 and 21 week SMA and EMA, and I hypothesized that it was probably a good value, considering that KASPA spent 23 days below it back in June of 2023, May and June. And then it spent a similar amount of time here earlier this year, about a month or two ago, before it started pumping up. And then eventually it got above the bull market support band, the 20-week SMA, and then it back tested it after it cleared it. And then it has now continued up. So as I suspected, people were looking for that sort of move as confirmation that the trend was now to the upside. So very clearly, we have broken out. We've set new all-time highs. So now, I'm sure many of you listening are wondering, what's next? Well, I guess I do have some theories, or at least some sort of hypothesis that I'd like to share. I do believe that it's possible that, of course, nothing is certain. We are only weighing the odds and trying to find patterns, and things can obviously move, but and change over time. So we keep an eye on it regularly. We are potentially looking at a running flat pattern, which, as you can see here, a running flat pattern is a type of Elliott wave pattern. And you can see that we had this ABC correction right here, where the C didn't get lower than the A. The C was higher, and it held its support. And now it is continuing up. Now, what I would be looking for is some sort of continuation to potentially test the top of this trend line that was created by this peak and this peak. And then potentially it pulls back a bit and it kind of retests the previous all-time high right here. So maybe it comes up, sets a new high again in the near-term future, and then it retests, and then it continues up. And then that's really when the move starts getting started. The larger trend resumes higher in C. So that's potentially what is next, but after maybe, as you can see, a bit of a test of this trend line, pull back, boom. So that's just one theory. It very well could come down and hit this again and come up and do it later. But it's just one thing that we're seeing. I think we do have the odds in our favor for some bullish continuation just because of the momentum. So very exciting if you're in KASPA, and if you, in fact, bought when KASPA was below the bull market support band, which, if you've been following me for quite a while, I really like to watch these moving averages because it's a great way of finding moments when KASPA is potentially at a lower risk, because under these moving averages, you can basically just see over time when it's on sale. So if you believe that the trend is still bullish, which again is going to come down to your personal bias, if you believe that it's still bullish, then these moving averages show you when it is at a discount. So here it was at a discount very clearly. It popped back up, it held it as support and moved higher for a bigger move. Here it was below these moving averages. it has popped up higher, retested them as support, and boom, it's off to the race. So it really comes down to your personal bias. And of course, if you turn bearish for whatever reason, these moving averages will be times that you want to de-risk. So after a peak, a cycle peak, if you suspect that the market has peaked, these are opportunities potentially to sell, as you can see on the Bitcoin chart, which leads me into Bitcoin. Where is Bitcoin now? So we've been watching Bitcoin. We've been trying to guess whether or not Bitcoin was going to do this sort of left translated cycle that I was considering, I was open to, where Bitcoin would potentially set highs much higher than the previous highs sometime in 2024, maybe this summer. But at the moment, it doesn't really look like that's going to happen unless the overall peak is just lower, sometime somewhere near the 2021 high. In which case, you got to be open to all scenarios, and it's unwise to be overinvested in the markets. So, if we did have a potential peak here and it went into a bear market, would you survive? You got to ask yourself these questions, right? But as it looks right now, it does look like it is following this fractal that I took from here, from the last Bitcoin halving in 2020, where price kind of continued up after the halving. So I took that price action and just overlaid it right here. And it does look like Bitcoin is kind of, so far, sort of on that sort of path. And I don't expect these fractals to play out exactly at all. Like, it's not going to just boop, 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 kind of come up. I don't think that that's necessarily going to happen, but it is at least some sort of guide to just kind of get an idea, to get a feel, some sort of sense as what potentially the next year could look like. Because in 2025, March would be roughly the amount of time where Bitcoin set its peak after the previous halving, if you just kind of find the time span between these two moments. So looking towards early next year would basically just be a repetition of the last cycle. Now, will that happen again? I don't know, because I'm sure a lot of people, not just me, are looking at that. And the more people that are noticing that, the less likely it's going to happen. So we will follow it, but don't expect this exactly to play out. It could also peak much lower. And it could also peak higher, or it could peak very close to the 4.236 or 3.618 Fibonacci extensions, which, by the way, if you want to learn more about technical analysis and how to kind of put all that sort of technical analysis in perspective, join the Ski Bum Trading Discord. Link is in the description below. If you struggle with TradingView and using the tools and indicators and want some insights on what really is important and useful, I'm there to help suggest ways to really get the maximum benefit out of a program like this, like TradingView. I know not everyone uses these programs, but that's what the Ski Bum Trading Discord is there for. So we are watching Bitcoin. We are hoping to find where the cycle peak is. That is also what my intention is in the Ski Bum Trading Discord. And I am 100% KASPA. I know many of you watching this are probably also invested in KASPA, or at the very least curious about it. And going forward, we're going to see if this pattern plays out very quickly, just for fun. I have these fractals that we used to watch a year ago, which played out very, very closely. And then once KASPA had gotten to this 14-cent range that I estimated would inevitably hit. It's more evident on the candle chart because the line chart is only an average of price action, but the full extension was at 14 cents. KASPA got there and roughly went sideways. Really, honestly, even though a lot of emotions came in here as I, scrolled through Twitter, people seemed to be very emotional in this long range where essentially KASPA did basically nothing. It was a great opportunity to accumulate, but nonetheless, everybody got very fearful here because in the moment, you don't know. You don't know if it's going to break down. You don't know if it's going to break down here. But the way I look at it was that it was essentially in a phase where it needed to build a base. And why? Because people don't like to buy peaks, right? But if something is very bullish, people are going to accumulate it. And so it seems like it's just had this, it's been buoyed up here. It's held, and nonetheless, it essentially held near its all-time high. And now it appears to be getting ready for a bigger move. As you can see, just on a smaller or a more precise perspective here, it could very well be doing this running flat pattern. And when it breaks out, I don't know how high it's going to go. Like, we'll see, because if Bitcoin really breaks out and gets to these higher Fibonacci levels, then altcoins are going to go pretty berserk. And KASPA clearly now is in the top 30. I think last I checked it was ranked 25, which if you look on CoinMarketCap, pretty much everything above it are coins that are household names if you're into crypto. And it's pretty cool that that's where KASPA is. It came a long way in the last year. It was fair launch, basically started at zero market cap. It's proof of work, faster than Bitcoin, running, right out of the gate at 1 block per second. And now basically moving to 10 blocks per second with smart contracts coming, making it fundamentally, in many ways, spirit of Bitcoin. It's not just that, it's that the people behind it, like Jonathan Sampolinsky and Aviv Zohar, are people that influenced the whole crypto industry. They really did. Like, you can go back to the Bitcoin Twitter account in 2014, and they're tweeting out work that they did, papers that they published. And the papers were intended to scale Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin community did not want to utilize their work, so they went off and did their own thing. And what did they create? They created KASPA. And, it's not just, a lot of people have obviously tried, but their work it just speaks for itself because it's been used in Ethereum. It influenced Ethereum. It influenced Cardano. It influenced XRP. All of these things. These guys, KASPA, the people behind KASPA are Bitcoin OGs. They're like the wrecking crew of crypto. The wrecking crew in the music industry were studio musicians in the 60s and 70s that wrote all these hit songs for bands and musicians that the public knew. But the people behind those songs were the wrecking crew, the musicians that wrote the music, right? So that's kind of what like Jonathan Sampolinsky was and Aviv Zohar for many years, until they just recently launched KASPA, which really just is as legit as is the most legit thing I could find in the bear market. So I put everything into it. I just sold all my other altcoins, and I even sold what Bitcoin I had. I just put everything into KASPA. And I just felt like, if I wanted to have a nice ROI, a nice return, it was worth holding KASPA because it would offer a higher return than Bitcoin, while also maybe less risky, arguably, than like other quote unquote altcoins in the crypto industry. So I decided to put my money into KASPA. Of course, I manage my risk by having money outside of crypto that, I treat all of this as speculative. Of course, I don't need it to live, but I will be very happy, right, if KASPA succeeds. So that's the way I look at it. And I put my money where my mouth is. So that's where I'm at. That's how I'm invested. And everyone needs to, find their own risk tolerance and what they're willing to do with their money. And obviously age matters, right? If you're younger, you can take more risk. If you're retired, you don't want to take a lot of risk. So that's one way to put that into perspective. You got to be more conservative. And some people only put their money into the stock market, which right now is breaking out into all-time highs. And so the S&P 500 is going potentially to the, depending on how you draw it, it is going up to the 1.618 if you draw it on this total range right here. There are different ways. So, you move the Fibonacci around and you can kind of see how it's interacting, right? So if you do it on this range, it still obeys some of the levels. Right now it's at the 1.618 on this range, and then draw it up here. We got the 1.618 higher, 5,600, and it looks like it's got momentum to break out. It retested the 20 and 21 week SMA and EMA right here. Pretty perfect retest. I mentioned that on Twitter. If you follow me, I think I also put that up in some previous YouTube videos. And so things are looking positive in the US stock market. I know, a lot of people tune out when I bring this up because they're not in the US and they say, well, this doesn't affect me, but it actually does, because in some of my previous videos, I've showed the correlation between the U.S. stock market and Bitcoin, for example. So it all the capital flows between all these different asset classes, and so you do have to actually watch the stock market. And if the stock market is breaking out, the U.S. stock market, that's going to be good for Bitcoin, right? This is good for Bitcoin, and then ultimately, if you're a KASPA holder, it's good for KASPA, because what people do is they shuffle their money around. They take money out of the lower risk investments as things heat up, because the upside isn't going to necessarily be as huge, and then they put it into maybe a small percentage of that profit into more risky plays. And people do consider Bitcoin riskier than, say, the S&P 500, an index like that, made of stocks. And then further out on the risk curve then would be KASPA. I mean, some of us don't feel that way, but many people don't know what KASPA is, but maybe their friend told them about it, whatever. They might put a little money into it. So that's why these things sort of pump towards like the end of cycles. Like with a Bitcoin has a peak, then a lot of things will have peaks like afterwards, and the return will be much higher. So it's just shuffling of money. And gold as well, is doing well. So so metals are doing well. Everything's just doing well right now. And, you got to be on guard looking for a peak, right? You don't want to get caught holding the bad bag when things do turn sour. But you also don't necessarily want to sell too early. So you got to have a strategy. You can scale in, scale out, DCA. All of those things help, right? Mitigate risk, and everyone's situation is different. So you just got to think about your own situation. And then on a lower time frame on Bitcoin, Bitcoin held support here at the 618 Fibonacci retracement level. It bounced off essentially the bull market support band, and it's nice to see it's holding these upper fib retracements. So I mean, to me, it looks optimistic. It looks like, again, it is above this descending channel, this one right here. And then if Bitcoin can kind of just continue higher and break out, it's going to be looking pretty rosy. So things overall are looking optimistic, and I'd love to hear what you guys think and what you're feeling about the markets. Are you guys feeling bullish? Are you guys feeling bearish? What's in your portfolio? How much KASPA do you have? You don't need to tell me how much exactly, but what percentage of your portfolio does it make up? Is it 20%? Is it 50%? Is it 100%? And then, what else would you want to see on the KASPA chart? Do you want to hear more about Bitcoin and the stock market? Do you want me to do more, just focus on KASPA? Any comments, feel free to drop them below. And again, if you want to learn technical analysis, consider joining the Ski Bum Trading Discord. The link to that is found in the Patreon that provides the invite link to the Ski Bum Trading Discord, where if you're interested in learning technical analysis that you can use practically and find what's important and useful, consider joining that. And otherwise, be well, take care. I will catch you on the next one.